Week number 1 in the NFL. We're ready. It's on deck. It's coming fast next week on Thursday. So basically 8 days away, you will be watching the Ravens and the Chiefs on opening night. Game number 2, which is a Friday night. You don't have to wait till later in the weekend with the Philadelphia Eagles and the Green Bay Packers live from Brazil. Now, the one thing we've been watching, Dubs, all offseason long was some wide receivers and some holdouts waiting to see when they would get back to camp and if they would get paid. And it turns out CeeDee Lamb got a monster paycheck here that once again is going to reset the market for the wide receivers, or at least the top tier wide receivers. Brandon Ayuk, we're still waiting for over for the 49ers. But the one guy that we've had our eyes on for a long time has been MarrChase of the Cincinnati Bengals. And the reason is he's been showing up to camp, Dubs. He just hasn't been practicing here in the hopes that he gets a new deal. Now, understandably, he still has time left on his contract, but is eligible for an extension and more money, and he deserves that. And it seems like everybody around MarrChase is getting paid, Dubs, and he's not at this point, but looks like he may be willing to start the season without a contract. That's an upset to me, Dubsy.
Yeah, absolutely. You think you'd be getting risking it there. I mean, with 2 years remaining on that rookie deal as well, the fifth option, quite a hefty one, the fifth-year option set to go at $21.8 million, and rightfully so for MarrChase. I mean, at 24 years of age, everything we have seen is that this guy's an absolute superstar and a foundation key piece for the Cincinnati Bengals if they want to stay relevant. They absolutely want to, because look at who's quarterback. It's Joe Burrow. This is something they can absolutely build around. They've lost a couple of key pieces there in the offseason, but this is certainly one guy that deserves the bag. You want to keep him happy. You don't want to upset him in that locker room. We heard from head coach Zach Taylor. At least it sounds like there's optimism towards week 1. But Donnie, from all reports, I don't know if I'd be so optimistic about putting pen to paper and getting that extension.
You know what the interesting part about this is, too, because it's still a human element. And, yes, they operate in a different stratosphere than the regular person, which means millions of dollars are at stake, and they already have made millions of dollars. But everybody knows you can, like, whether you sell insurance, whether you drive a truck for a living, whether you're in a cubicle, it doesn't matter. If you feel underappreciated from your employer, sometimes you're going to question the work ethic. Now, you do have to be professional. You are under contract. You do want to perform at your highest level, because that's only going to help you down the road. But it's got to be tough when you see a lot of people in your boat that are getting that paycheck, and you know well you deserve it. And maybe if you weren't on the Bengals, you probably would have been paid already, because you take a look at that wide receiver room. T. Higgins did get the contract extension, but it's a 1-year deal. That's the franchise tag, which means he's not up for another contract negotiation until next year. And the Bengals have basically made it known, Dubs, he's probably not going to be back on the team. So MarrChase is saying, well, where's my money? At least that guy got paid on the franchise tag. I deserve more and I'm not getting it. I'm just interesting to see how well that wide receiver room handles this season, because big things are expected from the Cincinnati Bengals. But if the employees are a little bit upset or not focused 100% on the games, that could be an issue. Now, let's head down to South Beach and Odell Beckham Jr., one of the more electric players we've seen in the NFL over the past decade, but injuries have marred his career. Looks like he was on pace, Dubs, for a Super Bowl MVP day when the Los Angeles Rams won the Super Bowl in Los Angeles just a few years ago. Goes to the Baltimore Ravens, gets a nice paycheck, but doesn't perform, heads to the Miami Dolphins, wants to perform, but now going to be on the PUP list for at least the first 4 games. I don't think I saw this coming, Dubs. Did you see this coming, as these issues in the offseason with OBJ now heading into the regular season?
And they continue to surface, Donnie, and nothing gets easier for Odell Beckham Jr. at this point in the career. You look at the production, that continues to dwindle. You could say, well, he's been slightly more efficient, but I mean, from 14 games last year, just catching 35 passes for a measly 565 yards with 3 touchdowns, you've got to ask the question, what really is Odell Beckham Jr. bringing to one of the most high-octane offenses that we've seen in the league over the last 5 years? He fails to get that first step now, so he's definitely lost a beat. As a wide receiver 3, I think it makes a little bit of sense. But for me, I'm looking back saying, where's the durability for a long and testing season? And look, the Miami Dolphins, they're only planning towards that playoff push. You've got to be healthy. You've got to get those reps in. Tua told us on Monday, he was asked by the media and the presser there, how's the combination? How's that connection fitted with Odell Beckham Jr.? He goes, to be honest, we haven't had any reps together, so I really can't tell you. So to miss the first 4 weeks, I've got question marks how far that will push into the regular season, but it's not a great outlook for Odell Beckham Jr. And for the Miami Dolphins fans, for Mike McDaniel, I feel like this is always going to be something in the back of your mind. We know the X factor. We know the pizzazz is there from OBJ. I'm sure he can still do special things at a special level. It's just the quantity that looks to be dropping off, Donnie. So it's not good for the Dolphins.
No, it's certainly not. And also, we understand, Dubs, right, that he's no longer the number one option on a football team. Quite frankly, he wouldn't be the number 2 option on Miami. So you figure if he's healthy, he can be slotted into that third wide receiver position where you're not getting any rolled over coverage on you. You're not getting double coverage where maybe he can have 40 to 50 catches in that third role and still be effective for the Miami Dolphins. It's something to keep an eye on. But if you've been injured the entire offseason, Dubs, which means you're not working on your game, and as you pointed out astutely there with your quarterback, it's all about timing with the new quarterback. And if you're not going to get that, and then just say, okay, he's ready to go week number 5 when that offense is already humming over the first parts of the season, that could be a game changer for them. But we'll see what we get out of OBJ. Just not expecting big things now with that injury. How about this? The Rams trading linebacker and captain Ernest Jones to the Titans. And I like this. The Titans have made some very shrewd moves in the offseason, but the question's going to be, Dubs, are those moves going to translate into victories on the field for that team in the AFC South?
Look, I've still got a couple of question marks on offense. I've got a couple of question marks on the head coach coming in first year. I think it's the long game for the Tennessee Titans. But take a look at this. Tony Pollard, Calvin Ridley, Tyler Boyd, Jones, Snead, Jamal Adams. And I tell you what, for Jones, it's more of a sudden shock for me towards the Rams. I didn't see this one coming. They've already lost Aaron Donald, and now to lose Jones, massive departure, certainly helps the Tennessee Titans. Will Levis, he better get that mayonnaise ready. That coffee, there's a lot of expectation for him to step up and just get a little sharper with that offense. But I do think we see a bit of an improvement. 6.5 wins is their win total, Donnie. The odds makers, they're still riding them off.
Yeah, we're going to talk about this after the break as well. And yes, the mayonnaise fragrance is in the air, baby. That's football. Yes, it is. The early line coming back right here on the SportsGrid Network. Oh, those Tennessee Titans, they spent some money in the offseason. The question, though, is that going to translate into wins on the field, Dubsy? Because when I look at the Tennessee Titans, and if we can bring that graphic up there for the additions that they made this year, Tony Pollard, Calvin Ridley, Tyler Boyd, Ernest Jones, they just make the trade for. L'Jarius Sneed, one of the better cornerbacks in football. Jamal Adams, we'll see if they can resurrect his career, because I see it as if Will Levis, as you were bringing up, just has a decent football season, look at the weapons around him on offense. Hopkins, Boyd, and Ridley, one of the better wide receiving cores in football. Throw in Spears in the backfield along with Tony Pollard. If he can just deliver the football as a point guard, this team should move the football. Now, am I saying, Dubsy, they can win the AFC South? I don't think that's going to happen. Can they make the playoffs? Maybe. But you're putting a lot of pressure on Will Levis. But I do believe the talent is there. When you look at the 6.5 win total, they should absolutely, Dubs, challenge that in my mind.
Yeah, I think they'll challenge it. I think they'll hover right around 6, 7. You won't see much of them in primetime. I think they've just got the one primetime game all season long. But these are the weapons that you need for a young quarterback like Will Levis to thrive. We've seen a bit from Will Levis. There's a couple of question marks. There's a bit of inconsistency. But with new head coach Brian Callahan coming in, we know his background with Joe Burrow on that offense for the Cincinnati Bengals. I do think they get it downfield a lot quicker. I think that will suit the play style for Will Levis. In terms of in the division, it's going to be a tough out trying to get through the Texans, the Jags. I'm very bullish on both of those teams having big years here. But for Will Levis, he is going to have every opportunity to thrive. There's obviously going to be a lot of pressure on Brian Callahan to figure things out. But you look at the first 6 weeks here of the schedule, it's not going to be the easiest for him, starting off there in Chicago, followed by the Jets. But at 6.5 win total, for us as bettors, Donnie, that's the way you can approach a team like the Tennessee Titans. And you look at where they were last year, it's upgrade, upgrade, upgrade. A lot of green check marks for me. So the only step should be in that forward direction. How far forward will it be for the Tennessee Titans? I'd be buying more into that long game, year 2, year 3, with all these new pieces if they can figure things out. But very interested to see here week 1.
Yeah, DeAndre Hopkins going to be down for a little bit with that knee injury to start the season, but not expected to be out long term, which is a good thing for them. And the thing I always like, Dubs, about NFL organizations, if you have a young quarterback and you want to find out about that young quarterback, don't treat him like Justin Fields and say you have no weapons to work with. Go out there and see what you can do. Give that guy some weapons to work with so you can see if he can be a future quarterback in the league. And Will Levis is going to have that opportunity this year. But yesterday, Dubsy, it was cutdown day in the NFL. Roughly 1,000 players were released from their respective organizations. And some of the biggest names out there, Kadarius Toney, which was supposed to be that wide receiver that the New York Giants are going to be able to count on in the future. He goes to Kansas City, picks up 2 Super Bowl wins, and now he's on the street because Dubsy, if you're going to be a wide receiver, number 1, you got to be healthy. Number 2, you got to catch the football. And number 3, you got to be in it to win. And apparently, Toney wasn't there. He's got 2 rings, but now he's looking for a job.
Yeah, we've heard all reports coming through training camp that he wasn't getting the reps or the looks. So I guess it eventually came to fruition there. And look, Toney was a first-round pick back there in 2021. There's always been such a high ceiling, but in Kansas City, they've got Xavier Worthy coming on to the scene, a couple of more young pieces that I guess they've got higher hopes for. And I tell you what, Donnie, being a wide receiver in this league, it is a tough job. That's going to be one of the toughest afternoons in this sport, waiting for that call, coming into the head coach's office and saying, hey, it ain't going to be here with us. So onwards and upwards. Bailey Zappi for the Pats, that was another standout for me. Not that he's looked fantastic in the quarterback room, but I mean, they're an absolute train wreck right now. And Desmond Ridder, no longer with the Cardinals. That was a standout as well.
Yeah, the interesting one with Ridder, too, was, hey, you know what, let's just see what he can do. Make it be Atlanta's quarterback, now already looking for another job on another team after not working out with the Cardinals. You see Caleb Farley, who also was not too long ago a first-round draft pick of the Titans, which is why you got to go out and get guys like Snead to sort of fill in those blanks. When you whiff on first-round picks, it usually doesn't help you and sets that franchise back for a couple years. Also, some other players out there. Lewis Cine from the Vikings was released. A couple wide receivers out there. Terrace Marshall Jr., Allen Robinson, and Noah Brown. By the way, the Texans releasing some really good wide receivers. Why? Because that wide receiving core is absolutely deep down there in the South and should be a lot of fun. But we think Noah Brown certainly is going to find his way to some other teams. Also, one of the notable injuries that I did see was the Packers putting A.J. Dillon, their running back, on IR, and not season returning IR, season over IR for a neck injury. They picked up a big running back acquisition in the offseason to sort of lessen that blow, so they should be just fine in their quest to beat the Philadelphia Eagles, hopefully not in Brazil on Friday to start week number 1. Let's talk some Super Bowl futures right here on the early line. It's Dubs and Donnie on a Wednesday morning, and we'll be right back. Wake up, people. We're getting you ready for the NFL season every step of the way because why? Next Thursday night in Kansas City, they're going to drop a banner. They're going to kick off. It should be an epic night between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Baltimore Ravens, 2 teams in the AFC that we think could be careening towards another AFC championship game. But let's have some fun, Dubsy, and take a look at the FanDuel Sportsbook of where these odds are rounding into form before we get to opening kickoff next week. If we're looking at who's going to win the NFL championship next year, of course, it's going to be the Kansas City Chiefs at the top of the heap at a plus 550 price, along with the San Francisco 49ers at a plus 600 price. For a while, Dubs, those two are neck and neck with the same odds. Now it looks like Kansas City separating themselves just a little bit. But how about this as we talk about? Like next Thursday night's game, that includes the Chiefs, number 1 on the odds board right now at a plus 550 price, and number 3 on the odds board, that's the Baltimore Ravens at an 11-1 price. So let's just start there. If we look at game number 1 with 2 teams we expect to be players in the AFC, how much could that change your mind, Dubs, win or lose for either team on opening night as we move forward in the season?
First week of the regular season, last week of the regular season, I usually think and treat them as outliers there for me, Donnie. Yeah. But look, we'll be able to get a couple of key takeaways. It doesn't get easy in search of a third Lombardi for the Kansas City Chiefs, but I don't think it gets a lot tougher from trying to go back-to-back. You look at the weapons returning here, as long as Spag's going to be calling on the defensive side, Andy Reid's going to be scheming things up, but they have to improve those drop balls. They have to get better in the second halves. I thought they excused a lot of second-half woes last season off the back of some Patrick Mahomes' brilliance with that postseason push. So I like the Kansas City Chiefs. So the Baltimore Ravens, they finished up top of the conference. I think there could be a little bit of regression coming. Lamar Jackson, I don't know if he can go back-to-back with another MVP caliber season. Derrick Henry comes in to that backfield. We know the run game is going to be heavy, but how those two are going to get amongst it there. Their defense certainly going to be strong, but for the Kansas City Chiefs at home, dropping the banner, they're going to be up for the occasion, and I do think they could be looking even better through the regular season. And hey, once we get to the playoffs, we know they've got the experience in bunches. So no surprises for me. The Chiefs are starting to firm up in the market at plus 550. It's not a bad price, but for the Baltimore Ravens, I guess that's the team that I want to see a little more juice out of early in this year, just to know that they are the contenders that we saw from last year.
And also, if you remember last year, opening night in Kansas City, yes, because when you win the Super Bowl, you get that opening performance in your own building. The Detroit Lions had a pretty good showing there against the Kansas City Chiefs. We'll see if the Ravens can do that. But here's the always tough thing, all throughout history. Nobody wanted to bet against Michael Jordan in a big spot. Nobody wants to bet against Tom Brady in a big spot. Nobody wants to bet against Patrick Mahomes in a big spot. But granted, they're not going to go, at least we don't think, 17-0 in the season, run through the AFC playoffs and win the Super Bowl and go perfect on the season. There are going to be ups and downs for the team. But you know what makes it so hard for me, Dubs, to look from last year to this year is last year for me, and I'll continually say it, that was the year to get the Kansas City Chiefs. They didn't have home field advantage. They were lacking at the wide receiver position, and then yet they go on the road in the divisional round, knock off the Buffalo Bills, the AFC Championship on the road against the Ravens, beat them, and then faced a very good opponent in the Super Bowl in the San Francisco 49ers and beat them. So now you take a look at the wide receiver position for the Chiefs. Worthy, Rice, and Brown, Kelsey at tight end, Pacheco at running back, Patrick Mahomes as your quarterback. How do you theoretically bet against the Chiefs? And also, are you looking to fade the Chiefs at times during this NFL season? Because to me, it's one of those roadblocks in your head that you say, how can I pick against the Chiefs when I always see them win out here, Dubsy?
It's very tough, Donnie, but I think you highlighted, a couple of great points there on the betting side of things. We saw the same last season. They're going to be caught napping, maybe against a couple of sort of weaker outfits, week 4, week 5, week 6, as they just sort of lose a bit of steam. But I think week 1, opening night, they're going to find that juice. But it's a long season going through the NFL. Obviously, depth and injuries, that's going to be a concern. And guess what? The more championships that you win, the more that your roster, the more that these players demand in price. So that's why it gets even harder and harder trying to keep all these superstars under the one roof. But I do think with those complement of weapons that you just went through, Donnie, I think it's a forward step for the Kansas City Chiefs. You've got a couple of more targets for Patrick Mahomes. That's going to give him plenty of confidence. But don't get it twisted. Every single week when a team is playing against the Kansas City Chiefs, I don't care what round it is, that's going to be their Super Bowl. And that's what makes it so tough for the Chiefs, trying to go through the regular season without flinching. They're, of course, going to drop a couple. I certainly think they get to double digits. They're going to figure out their way into the playoffs and get set for another monster run.
Cohesion is such a big thing, too. You take a look at their room, right? It's always Andy Reid as that offensive coordinator setting up the offense, and Steve Spagnuolo has been a wonderful defensive coordinator. So year to year, that continuity is always there. Dubsy, it's like, a guy on the bag, a golfer. You want that continuity for years because you know what? This guy can read my mind. I'm going to hit a 4-iron. Now, you know what? I think that 5-iron's the right move here. Having the trust to make that bag change here and club change, same thing in the NFL. Continuity on a year-to-year basis does pay off. Now, let's take a look at the San Francisco 49ers, who had a 6-1 price to win the Super Bowl. Talented, maybe the most talented team in the NFC, and of course the favorites here to get to the Super Bowl. But the questions always linger. Can you be healthy for an entire season with Christian McCaffrey? And there is something to getting to the Super Bowl, Dubsy, and losing it, that Super Bowl hangover, knowing how hard it was just to get there. You're right in it. You lose a close one. Then you have to rebound the next season. How are we paying attention to and betting the San Francisco 49ers this year for you?
For me, Donnie, 49ers still the best roster coming in to a new season. Brandon Ayuk, they've got to get him happy. They've got to get him secure. But I don't think he's needed or essential to make another Super Bowl run. I think this is a team where you could possibly look at fading early in the year. Maybe they're a little sluggish out of the gates, but I do think there is a bit of class, and I do think they've got that X factor. For Christian McCaffrey, I mean, what did he put up? 21 tutties there last year, 14 rushing, 7 receiving. He is arguably the best player in the NFL, and certainly a few fantasy players, he will go in that one spot. So I think the 49ers are going to be right in the mix. Again, I think maybe we see a bit of a downtick in terms of their win total from where they were last year. But for a guy like Brock Purdy, I think he's still going to be doing exactly what Kyle Shanahan needs. CMC, whether he plays every single game, I don't know if we're going to get that kind of durability out of Christian McCaffrey. But if he were to go down, well, I think that would be a very quick fade for me going against the 49ers. They don't need all of their weapons, but they certainly need their biggest one cooking on full cylinders and healthy if they want to make another championship run. They were so close last year, Donnie. It will come down to having a bit of a hangover. Will they be sluggish, or do they take that? Do they learn from it and try and go one better in a new season?
Yeah, and also it's interesting, too, because you saw at the end of last year in the regular season, Christian McCaffrey went down with that calf injury, was fine for the playoffs, but now we see Dubs in the preseason and in training camp hurting that calf once again. They gave him ample time off. He'll be ready to go week number 1, but we'll see if that injury does linger. We also have some pretty good parity from, let's just say, 12-1 to 18-1 at the FanDuel Sportsbook. You got the Lions, the Eagles, the Texans, Bengals, Bills, Cowboys, Jets, and the Green Bay Packers. The one thing I do like is you get referendum games, Dubs, coming up in week number 1, which means the Chiefs are playing the Ravens. That could give you a leg up, because the big part about that is not only do you pick up a win to get a game ahead, but it's essentially a game and a half, because then you own the tiebreaker in that head-to-head market. Same thing with the Philadelphia Eagles and the Green Bay Packers. They play game number 1 in Brazil, which, again, that's scheduled to be an Eagles home game. How big would that have been, Dubsy, if that game was in Philadelphia and not in Brazil, so have a true home field advantage? So when we're looking at some of these teams changing up on a week-to-week basis, how about those Houston Texans? A 15-1 price. They're scheduled and priced as if they will be a threat, Dubs, to win a Super Bowl this year.
What could go wrong in Houston? Star young quarterback CJ Stroud, his second year. He can only get better. You've now got Stephon Diggs, one of the best wide receivers, coming in to the mix. You've got Joey Mixon setting the table. I'm that guy. I am that guy, Donnie Rightside. I think it's a step backwards for the Houston Texans. I hate to say it, but I'm not buying in.
I love it. The contrarian views. We need them out there. We can't all love the same teams out here. Apparently, you can win money by going against the public. What a novel concept. It's officially hour number 2 right here on the early line, a fast-moving hour number 1 with a lot of hot topics, and we are going to continue that into hour number 2. It's Donnie Rightside, it's Stubbs Anderson, it's the SportsGrid Network at Sirius XM Channel 159. How are we feeling after that hour, Dubs? We feel like we got another hour, another 2 hours, maybe another 3 hours in us this morning on a Hump Day Wednesday.
Donnie, I just fitted in like maybe 100 push-ups through that commercial break. So I'm jacked. I'm ready to rock and roll. We got a lot going on for you sports fans. No shortage. So let's make some money. Let's keep that momentum rolling.
Let's do it here. And by the way, more NFL topics on the way. Absolutely. But get this. The NFL, Dubsy, we understand it is about money. It's about making money. And it's about charging obscene prices to get into stadiums. And also, you want to buy a beer? It's like $20 for a can of beer. You want to buy a pretzel? That's a good $8 now. Oh, you want a bottle of water? Yeah, that's about $7.50 or higher, depending on what stadium you're going to. But that's not the issue we're going to have today. We understand when you go to an NFL game, you better pack your own lunch or eat in the parking lot before you get in the doors. But how about this? Front Office Sports reporting yesterday, the NFL owners have voted to approve the introduction of private equity into franchise ownerships. Firms will initially be capped at 10% of a team's equity. So more money invested into NFL franchises. The thing I get a kick out of, if you just scroll through X and social media and see what the fans think of this, because many people don't really understand what it means. And quite frankly, it's only 10%. It's not a controlling stake here. You're not going to have voting rights. But if you want to make money, private equity firms do this. Invest in a team, then you have to hold it for a certain amount of years. You sell it for a profit. That's how they do. But everybody in the actual comments here from Maximus, it'll be so cool when a regular season game between the Browns and the Cardinals cost a family of 4 $1,200 to get in the door and $300 for food and drink. It doesn't seem like the general public, Dubsy, is in love with private equities now joining the NFL ranks.
I was just checking my Bank of America account, Donnie. I cannot partake in jumping in with one of these private equity firms, and it doesn't sound like it can be a free-for-all. It sounds like there's only 8 firms that have actually been approved to go down this route. But I mean, it gets tougher and tougher. I was just out at SoFi Stadium last season. It was $80 for parking. The food and beverage, you can't bring in your own ham and cheese sandwiches, Donnie, because they're checking everything at the gate. You can't even bring in a bag. So I don't know about this one. More to come on that side of things. It's just another way for, I guess, the NFL to monetize of where it stands right now. They've already got a good grasp on where this thing sits, but hey, more. That's what we want to see.
By the way, Dubs, I was a season ticket holder for the Philadelphia Eagles at Lincoln Financial Field from the very first season it opened in 2003 right up to the Super Bowl season in 2017. The kick that we used to get out of it was early on, they told you can't bring in hoagies or sandwiches because it could be like a security threat, which they completely blew up. Because why? It was a security threat. It was the fact that they wanted you to pay $10 or $15, whatever it was back in the day, for a sandwich as opposed to bringing in your own. But the thing I could never wrap my head around, and I swear it is thievery, Dubs, as you just brought up, paying to park in an empty parking lot for a ticket you purchased to go into the stadium. I never understood it. But again, it's like going to a casino. It used to be like, hey, come park in our parking spots here. We just want you into the casino. Now you find yourself paying for parking at casinos just to get in. I understand that has nothing to do with the equity firms, but the whole concept of yes, and it's even more now. And in Los Angeles, paying $80 to drive your car to a game on top of what it's going to cost. How did we let this get away with it, Dubs? How did we not revolt against this?
It's not good enough, Donnie. I mean, parking should be free, but the worst part about it was I was running late to the game and I had the missus in the front seat and I didn't want to look cheap. So when the parking attendant says, hey, it's going to be $80, I couldn't flinch. I had to act like, well, $80 is not a big deal for Dubsy. It absolutely crushed me. So you know what I had to do? I had to double load up on that game that I was about to sit through for the next 3 hours trying to chase it back. I don't know if I actually hit that Sunday afternoon, but never a dull moment. A day out at the football is not what it once was.
I mean, you got to close a guy out in 5 and 4 on the golf course the day before, Dubsy, just to pay parking the next day overall. But the NFL is making some other changes, but maybe at a later time. And I'm big on technology, Dubs. If you start with Major League Baseball and you tell me right now, tonight, we are going to get robo-umps, which means the strike zone, we know exactly what it's going to be. There's going to be no hits and misses here. There's going to be no bad calls. I absolutely love that. I don't care about the human element one bit in Major League Baseball when it comes to getting the strike zone correct. But how about this? The NFL will not use its electronic system to measure first downs during the regular season this year, a source says, after continuing to test it during the preseason. Now, they say it might come in 2025. I got to tell you, sometimes I like nostalgic things, and I like anticipation to build. So isn't it fun where the line to gain is 4th and 1, a quarterback sneak, they go into the realm of you can't see where the football is, they spot it, then they bring the chains out and they stretch you and, oh, it's a first down, or no, it's not a first down. I generally enjoy that here. Now, the NFL wants to get up with technology, so what they want to do is take that away and just have like a laser measure, and you move forward. If it's quicker, I understand, but I actually think that's a charming part of the game here, Dubsy. I don't want to miss out on it.
It is a charming part, and for the traditionalists, absolutely love it. And Donnie, I don't want to be that guy, but look, if I'm paying $80 for parking and I got to get out of there in a hurry, the quicker, the better. And if it can help eliminate a little human error, I'm all for it, Donnie. I'm that guy. I think the changes that we've seen in Major League Baseball, it's a big thumbs up. I would love to see this one from the NFL there as well. Why is it going to take 4 years to try and bring this thing in? It sounds like somebody's trying to cut a deal at the table again. I know what's going on here, Donnie.
What, the chain link gang holding this up? Like they want more money. They don't want to be busted out. Because even like the Major League Baseball umpires, right? They're not telling the umpires they're going away. Like you're still going to stand behind the plate as the umpire. You're just not going to call the balls and strikes. You get buzzed. It's a ball. You get vibrated there. It's a strike. It's very easy to do that. So I don't understand why the union in the umpires for Major League Baseball try to take that away. But the one thing we do like about the NFL over the years, like TV has basically changed a lot due to technology, and we're all here for it. Like try to watch a game from the 70s or 80s on their broadcast. You don't see the scoreboard. You don't see the score. It's like, we don't even know what down it is at this point. And then they flash some graphic up randomly at that point. Or even like back in the day for me in the 90s, Dubs, the 10-minute ticker that used to come up on the screen. It was like, oh, everybody gathers around the team. Okay, Dallas is winning. Okay, Seattle has the lead. Ooh, Tampa Bay is losing now. And you waited every 10 minutes for that ticker to come up. And now you see it on time to time. And also, how did we ever live without the line to gain, which means the first down marker, not having that line on the screen where you know exactly where it is? Remember having to actually think it out yourself, like, okay, they got to get to the 34, 33. Let me add that up in your head. So technology is good for the game at times. I just don't like to lose the nostalgia here, Dubsy.
Yeah, no, I get it, Donnie. Even when you're watching a game and you go there in person, there's a lot of signage on the field that's not actually on the field. They're just putting it in there via graphics or some green screen. I don't get. But look, that is one of the best things about some of the mainstream sports here in the States. When I first came across from Australia, I love the fact that Major League Baseball stays true to its traditions. I love the fact that when you watch Sunday football for the NFL, they're not blasted all over their uniforms and jerseys like a NASCAR driver. At least they're trying to stick true to that side of things. So I'm all for it, Donnie. You love to see it. Some of these things are what make this game so fantastic. Sunday afternoon, you want to see, I guess, a couple of constants there. So I know I'm going against. You got a good take on this one.
By the way, 03, 04, 05, 06 in that range, like we didn't really have smartphones at that time. And I remember going to the games on a Sunday, and it was like a novel concept that they would post like statistics on one of the side scoreboards for fantasy football that you'd be glued to the entire game. And I remember, it wasn't long ago, like Wi-Fi in a stadium was not really a real thing. So you were just left with 70 to 80,000 people in a stadium trying to fight for the same space here to get that 3G or whatever it was back in the day to work on your phone. And forget about it. If there was a big play in the game or you wanted to call home and say, did you see what just happened at the stadium? Good luck fighting 70,000 people's cell signal just to try to make a phone call. We've come a long way in sports here with technology, and I love to see it here. But sometimes when I see that chain gang out there and the anticipation of a first down or not, I think that needs to stay in the game. Let's continue with the hot topics next. More gambling advice? Get ready. It's right here on the early line. Who's having fun? Certainly these two guys doing the show. Absolutely. Hopefully you're home there watching and listening in and following along with us because we got some hot topics on the way, which does include the NFL and the FanDuel Sportsbook to try to have some fun with. Now, Dubsy, fusion is the word of the day. We're not talking about nuclear energy at this point, but also let me ask you this question. Fusion restaurants. A big fan? Ever been to one? Any thoughts on fusion food?
Donnie, no. I mean, I've probably got the taste buds of a 12-year-old. You know, give me a melted toasted cheese. Bob's your uncle. What is a fusion? Obviously, I'm going to buy in to what the name suggests. It's a little blend. It's a little mix of cuisines. Is it, Donnie?
Exactly. It's a blend of, let's just say, I don't know, Mexican cuisine, Italian cuisine, if you want a little Mediterranean mixed in with a little Spanish, stuff like that. So I've technically never been to a fusion restaurant and have eaten there, but I was joking with Ben last week, like Taco Bell. You know, you have the Mexican pizza, it's got Italian, it's got Mexican. That's as fast as I go to fusion at that point here. But the reason we have fusion bets here is we like to put two different teams into categories and see if we can make some money. We've been having some fun with this all week long, and we'll continue that today. How about this wager, Dubs? The Lions to have the NFL's best record and the Patriots to have the NFL's worst record. That comes in at a 36-1 price. So if we set the table for this one, we are expecting big things out of the Lions this year. Are they the favorites to get through the NFC into the Super Bowl? Not necessarily, but we're expecting that offense under Ben Johnson once again, Jared Goff at quarterback, to absolutely be a machine. On the other hand, we don't have such high expectations for the New England Patriots. 3, 4, maybe 5 wins. Is it feasible that the Lions could have the best record in the NFL, let's just say 14-3, and the Patriots could be, let's just say, 3-14 at a 36-1 price?
Yeah, and I mean, essentially two outcomes here. I'm buying in on the Lions. I think they're getting set to roar. We saw that last year for Dan Campbell, Jared Goff, I would consider maybe pushing into being a top 5 quarterback in this league. My favorite wide receiver, Amon-Ra St. Brown. I think he checks all the boxes. So the Lions, potent offense. Yes, I could absolutely see that. On the flip side, what's going on in New England? What is happening for the Pats? Who's going to be at quarterback? How are they going to get it down the field? I would argue the Patriots and the Carolina Panthers, they're going to be the biggest cupcakes coming in for the regular season. So, Donnie, yes, for the Lions to finish up top, thumbs up. For the New England Patriots to have the worst record, I could absolutely see that as well. And it's not like mind-blowing. The price that you're getting at plus 3,100, 31-1, that's a great buy.
Yeah, a lot of good prices out there. By the way, we had George Bellecchio on yesterday to talk about the New England Patriots. So I'm going to ask you the same question. In your mind, Dubsy, you got Drake May, the young quarterback you draft in the first round. You got the sage veteran in Jacoby Brissett. Now, for me, I don't think it makes a difference who you're going to start. You're not going to make the playoffs, and wins certainly are going to be tough to come by. Who do you start, Dubsy, for the New England Patriots? You go with the young buck, or are you going with the sage veteran to say, hey, guide us through some of these choppy waters here?
Yeah, and look, Donnie, I guess if the veteran, if I could see the upside that he could, when you say, guiding us through choppy waters, pick up a couple of wins, pick up a couple of victories, give us some kind of promise that Jacoby Brissett can get it down the field, I would say, okay, let's throw the salty vet in there. Maybe Drake May can just sit on the sidelines for the first 5, first 6, try and get a bit more confidence, figure things out coming up to the pro level. But I don't think we get any kind of hope with Jacoby Brissett as starting quarterback. We've seen all these tricks, all these tools before, and it's not enough with that offense to do anything. They're not going to compete. They're not going to contend through a first quarter, let alone going through 4 quarters. For Drake May, I think it could be a great learning opportunity. I'm just always so hesitant of throwing a young guy in at quarterback and not letting him succeed. We saw it there for Bryce Young, 63 sacks last year. That can absolutely ruin a young quarterback. It can ruin his confidence. And by year 3, year 4, he's probably looking at being a backup somewhere else. But in terms of this situation, Drake May is the guy. You've just got to try and set him up for success. And you cannot have that expectation set too high. Set the bar low if you're a Patriots fan. You're not expecting much. You can see that from that win total. They could still have the worst record for the regular season, but Drake May could still be successful in showing us a bit of ability as long as they can keep him fit.
Yeah, ruining a young quarterback's confidence, certainly not supposed to be on your list to do for the 2024 season here for Gerard Mayo and the New England Patriots. But let's take a look at some of those odds at the FanDuel Sportsbook to have the best record overall in the NFL. The top 5 as follows here. The Chiefs at a plus 850 price. The 49ers, 9-1. The Eagles at a plus 950. The Ravens at 10-1, along with the Lions at a 10-1 price. If you had one bet to make over those top 5 teams here in the odds market, who would get your vote for the best record on the 2024 season, Dubs?
Best record, I think the 49ers would be up there in the mix. Worst record, I think you're seeing it well with the Panthers. Obviously, I'm not big on. There's another market offered up here under this Fusions tab, Donnie, and I think you'll like this one. The Kansas City Chiefs to finish as the AFC's number 1 seed and the 49ers to finish as the NFC's number 1 seed. You look at the odds makers, they're telling us they're the 2 best teams to start the regular season. Obviously, they got that X factor and they're going to make that push at the right time of the year, but there's a good chance that they could both finish in those 1 spots. I know it was the Ravens in the AFC, but for the Kansas City Chiefs, we highlighted in our number 1, I think they could take a step forward and show a bit of improvement through the regular season. You're getting plus 2,100, 21-1. So the 49ers with their best record, maybe it's the Chiefs up there for the AFC. Couple up, well, nice little score could be coming.
Yeah, it's interesting to let it play out, too, because the one thing we do know is, yes, we're expecting good football teams to play out over the entirety of the season. Let's also remind ourselves, last year, the Philadelphia Eagles, Dubsy, riding high at 10-1, only to crash and burn late in that season and then get embarrassed in the playoffs here. But they're still sitting at that $950 price. New offensive coordinator, new defensive coordinator, new images this year. A couple nice draft picks for them, rebuilding that secondary to see how it plays out. But the one team that always sticks out to me, which I love in the regular season, that's those Baltimore Ravens sitting there at a 10-1 price. The questions don't come up during the regular season when Lamar Jackson is healthy. He's going to be an MVP candidate. They're going to win a lot of football games. But the issues come up in the playoffs. But the best thing about that is the playoffs don't matter when we're talking about the seasonal best record here. It ends after week 18 and those 17 games are played. So maybe the Ravens at a 10-1 spot would be a decent look. More fusion wagers on deck. More fun to be had right here on the early line on the SportsGrid Network, Sirius XM Channel 159. It's Stubbs and Donnie right here on the early line for a Wednesday morning edition. Only a few days away from the month of September, only about a week away from the NFL starting their regular season, but we're also a day away from week 1 in college football, which means Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday football action. But let's have some more fun at the FanDuel Sportsbook here, Dubsy, with the Futures Fusion. How about this wager? The Chiefs and Chargers both make the playoffs at a plus 200 price, or at least 3 AFC North teams make the playoffs at a plus 260 price. So let's start with the Chiefs and the Chargers. Obviously, we expect the Chiefs to make the playoffs, win the division, possibly get to a Super Bowl and win it for a third straight year, which would be remarkable. The Chargers, new head coach in Jim Harbaugh coming from Michigan over to the Chargers. Herbert's the quarterback here, a changing of the guard with some of the talent, at least offensively for that team, but we still expect a competent effort. And then if we flip it over to the other side of the wager, at least 3 AFC North teams to make the playoffs at a plus 260 price. For me, maybe the toughest overall division in football. So when you see this wager, which way would you possibly go, Dubsy? Chiefs, Chargers to make the playoffs, or are you taking the 3 AFC North teams to make the playoffs at a plus 260 price?
Ravens, Browns, Bengals, all to make it through the playoffs, Donnie, at plus 260. Yeah, on a Wednesday. Look, on the flip side, we know the Kansas City Chiefs, they're going to make it in to the playoffs. It's the Chargers and Jim Harbaugh I'm probably buying in on long term. They're coming off a 5-win season last year. Your franchise quarterback, Justin Herbert, he's dealing with that plantar fasciitis. That is not something you want to have for your quarterback coming into week 1 of the regular season after an offseason of losing a lot of vets, a lot of experience out of that locker room. So I think there's a couple of question marks for the Chargers. They'll show improvement from last year, but I don't think they make it in to the playoffs. So I'd be looking towards the AFC North. You saw from last year, very competitive, but every team having a really strong season. I think the Ravens are going to be right in the thick of it. Again, the Cleveland Browns, I feel like nobody is giving the Cleveland Browns enough respect. Still sneaking somewhat under the radar. I think the Steelers are going to struggle. I don't think they're going to get to 10 wins again this year. And for the Bengals, Joe Burrow, he's back, he's healthy. MarrChase looking like he's probably going to be there week 1 as well. So I'd take the 3 teams from the North to make it into the playoffs. It's not an easy feat, but right now all these teams have the right weapons in place.
It's 2 pretty good options here when you look at it because it feels like they're giving you some outs, right? We don't expect the Chiefs, Dubsy, and barring massive injury, like let's just say Patrick Mahomes does play the entire season. I don't think they're going to win 7 or 8 games. Like they're more likely to win 10, 11, 12, or 13 games, which means they're probably going to win the division, which automatically gets them into the playoffs. The tough part about the Chargers is I was actually hoping like last year's team with all that talent, particularly on offense, like the Keenan Allens and the Mike Williams, would have stuck around to go under Harbaugh and Herbert to see if that would have made a difference. Sooner than later, we do know the Chargers are going to be a formidable opponent out there in the AFC West. It's just what Harbaugh does. He wins everywhere he goes. But if we're looking from the 3 AFC North teams, for me, this is the tough challenge. Because if you separate them, Dubs, like if you removed and said, all right, we're going to take the Browns out of this division and let's just say the Ravens out of this division, then you say, okay, the Bengals, they probably should win the division, and maybe the other, just say the Browns are right behind them. But if we're trying to placate that same division, they're going to be playing each other on a week-to-week basis. Therefore, has to be a winner and has to be a loser. So sometimes you look at it and you say to yourself, how can we get 3 teams to the playoffs if we're beating our head against a brick wall on a week-to-week basis, just trying to beat these same teams? But the price points are intriguing. A plus 200 price on the Chiefs and the Chargers, but you get a little bit more of a return if you can get those 3 NFC North teams. Let me ask you this question on the Cleveland Browns. Deshaun Watson, who had such high expectations coming over from the Texans trade to the Browns, hasn't worked up, or should I say, haven't lived up to the expectations, and not even by a long shot on that contract. You take a look at him having a little bit of shoulder issues and arm fatigue in training camp, and Nick Chubb is going to be placed on the PUP list here for the first 4 games. Any worries about the Browns knowing they might be a little bit damaged goods here coming into the 2024 season?
Yeah, absolutely. I guess that's been the knock for Deshaun Watson over the last couple of years and everything he's dealing with off the field. I mean, you certainly need him at full health, full billing, and that's the way he plays it. He needs to get out of that pocket, use the wheels to scramble. But I'm still bullish. I think Deshaun Watson can turn it back a couple of years if he's fully healthy and find that top stride. Obviously, Nick Chubb, he has to return. You've got Amari Cooper, Jerry Jeudy, so the pieces are in place. And don't forget, on the other side of the ball, big bad Myles Garrett coming at the quarterback. So I like the Cleveland Browns. I think they're going to be right in the mix.